I'm not a racing kind of guy. I like shooting people. In the face. And other places. But I discovered something important back in 2011 when looking for ways of procrastinating before my exams. Dirt 2 was just the thing I needed. It taught me that just because FPS is my favourite genre, it doesn't mean that I shouldn't play other ones as well. Indeed, as a shoot people in the face connoisseur, I have grown familiar with each year's progress in that genre. I know what to expect, with any advances gradually being drip-fed to me a little bit with every new title. What turned out to be far more exciting in fact, was to hop into a genre that I hadn't played for a decade. Sure, I might not enjoy driving as much as shooting someone in the face, but a decade's worth of advances proves to be more important. It was a real quantum leap for me. Having grown up with Colin McRae Rally for the PlayStation 1, the jump to Dirt 2 was quite big. Of course the graphics looked a lot better, but what was more impressive was the amount of polish that had been lavished on the racing genre since the PlayStation 1. They bothered to decorate the menu. Everything flowed together to keep me entertained. Hell, I think the first time I booted up I was immediately dropped into a race. Screw menus and option screens. Clearly this generation doesn't have the attention span to wade through all of that. Of course, I immediately returned to the graphic settings before commencing my first race. I won't bore you with the details, but it was just nice to have the limitations of PlayStation 1 racing games suddenly thrown out the window, and to see a load of new additions that made me think, why didn't I think of that? During my time with Dirt, I enjoyed being a dick to AI drivers. I rewound time every time I messed up, rather than having to endure a slow and humiliating defeat from a momentary blunder. I enjoyed Rally and being a dick to other drivers both in front and behind me. I spent hours seeing how many cars I could write off from the race. This was 6 years ago. Attempting to relive this nostalgia, I played through Dirt 3 the other week and it was pretty much identical, which is why all the footage you see here is from this one. You won't know the difference. So like I said, try the racing genre even if you don't think you like racing. You might be surprised. For me it was about being a god, about rewinding if I made any mistakes so the end replays showed the perfect lap, round after round. AI drivers must watch me overtake and be all like, GG hacker, eat my dust AI players. And that's when I discovered Dirt Rally. Rally. Now, Dirt 2 and 3 had built me up to feeling like I was kind of a big deal. After all, I'd managed to beat a toboggan down a hill in Dirt 3. With the power of time travel, should I make a mistake, I was invincible. What could Dirt Rally dare throw at me that I couldn't handle? Here's a recreation of my first race.
Go. Right 3 continues for 100. Left 6 over jump maybe, 100.
Yup, I was heartbroken to discover that I was even worse at driving in this game than I am in real life. I literally googled, why can't I drive in Dirt Rally? Turns out it's all realistic and stuff, which means you skid uncontrollably around every corner and occasionally on the straight bits as well. And there's no time travel. Oh dear. Didn't help that I was using a rear wheel drive car. The Mini's a much better bet. But I didn't discover this for a long time because I'm so noob. I was disappointed. The opportunities for mischief were gone. Anything fun had been stripped out and replaced with really hard and unforgiving, which is all well and good, but Dirt 2 and 3 had trained me to be a perfectionist. The moment I spun out, I'd rage quit the game. What a waste of money this game had been. That is, until I let my girlfriend try it. It gave me endless fun to laugh at her ineptness around every corner. She failed and spun out for a good 10 minutes, barely hobbling across the finish line in her beaten up wreck of a car. And that was the moment that I learned to love this game. Because despite all this, despite failing every corner, at least once, despite smashing her vehicle into oblivion, and despite needing new pants for the co-driver, she still came ahead of 2 of the other drivers. And admittedly ahead of me too, because I'd rage quit on the first corner. Oh Dirt, I thought you had lost your humour and fun. But no, you devious beast. You made it more savage by creating a game as hard as balls, but with AI more inept than ever. Whereas in the older games, a slight mistake would doom you to last place because every AI operated on exactly the same skill level, the times are so spread out in Dirt Rally that they range from very good to literally worse than your girlfriend on her first attempt. And this is where the appeal lies in Dirt Rally. It's about starting out at the bottom and slowly edging your way up the leaderboards with every race. Second place isn't a huge failure, it's actually a success. Since if you do this every time then you'll probably win, since the guy who came first will probably lower his average by driving off a cliff in the next race. The courses are long and grueling. I found myself going into a sort of trance, 100% focused on the screen and co-driver instructions, whilst hammering away at my keyboard like a madman just to not royally muck up every corner. I think this is the first game where I've had to use the handbrake. In fact, I think it's the only brake I use now. This isn't a game of perfection. This is a game of avoiding grisly failure, of botching every corner and still being relieved because it could have been worse. And I love it. And to top off every race, at the end you can smugly scroll through the times, laughing at the wrecks and lost doors that all of these other pro drivers managed to pull off around the corners that you adequately traversed. But failure potentially awaits anyone around every corner, and your co-driver knows it. What is normally a voice of authority and confidence in other games has been reduced to a nervous wreck for this one. He shyly blurts out directions, knowing full well that his life could end at any moment, and probably will with me at the helm. He urgently blurts out,
"Don't cut,"
to which I'm usually like, why not? Oh, that's why. The poor guy. I still don't consider myself a driving enthusiast, but the Dirt series has reintroduced me to the genre. I'm like a silver on his first competitive match of CSGO. I might still suck, but it doesn't matter. It's the prospect of the climb. It's that journey of discovery that awaits me. And one day perhaps, I'll even be back in first place again. Rally, rally, rally.